Hello, my name is Matthew Pfeiffer with MattPfeifferCoaching.com. Welcome to my YouTube channel. On this channel, I create videos and content about toxic, narcissistically abusive relationships. And if you have a question that you'd like for me to answer, make sure you send it to justaskmatt at MattPfeifferCoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt at MattPfeifferCoaching.com. Just make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max. You're also very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, unfortunately, I will not be able to answer it. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe notification and you hit the bell notification so you're notified each and every time I upload a new video. I upload new videos on this channel 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And I also run my podcast live every Wednesday evening, 9 p.m. Central. So make sure you tune in and you can join me and my guest and we can have conversations and you can ask us questions as we're recording. So with all that being said, let's get into today's email. So this email comes from a person who is struggling with co-parenting with a narcissist. If you're co-parenting with a narcissist, you know that co-parenting with a narcissist is an uphill battle because they always constantly want control. And in the meantime, you're trying to heal, you're trying to set boundaries. And so there are a lot of dynamics that happen when we're co-parenting with a narcissist. With all that being said, let's get into today's email. So today's email reads, "Hey, Matt, I was in a 10-year relationship with a narcissist, not knowing that he was one until the middle of last year. That is very common for people to not even realize, not even know what they're with, the type of person that they're with until they are out of the relationship or until they're about to leave the relationship. I had made the decision to leave because I got tired of the disrespect to me and to my kids, treating me terribly and putting me through it. We share an 8-year-old son who doesn't want to engage or spend time with him due to the lack of effort. My concern is when I left, he made things really hard for me by being unfair, spiteful, and not willing to agree on anything when it comes to our son and his well-being." So the way that this is written, I have a feeling that you do not have a custody order in place. Right. So one of the things that I tell people, a lot of times the codependent in the relationship, they're avoiding going to court and putting things on paper because of everything that this person just mentioned. Right. I really have a feeling they didn't say that. So I'm just kind of speculating, but I do have a feeling that that's the case. And this is common. And the reason why people don't go to court with a narcissist, sometimes the narcissist might convince them not to. They might say things, they might charm the person who's struggling with codependency, and they might say something along the lines of, "We don't need lawyers, we can work this out. Let's be cordial through this process." And it gets the codependent or the people pleaser to feel bad for them, and they cave. Or in this situation, one of the things that she's already said was that this person was already being unfair, spiteful, and unwilling to agree on a lot of different things. So a lot of times as a people pleaser, you're trying to avoid conflict. And so the last thing you want to do is to go to court and create more conflict when you know that in your mind, you don't think it's going to work. So let's get back into it. So for those of you who are listening, or if you are the person who wrote this, you have to understand that you have to have things documented on paper in court, right? So we need a custody arrangement. So let's get back into this. "He refuses to leave my home and respect my boundaries." And that's very common with narcissists, right? So they'll come to pick up the child, or they'll come to drop off the child, and then they won't leave, right? So what do? We call the police, right? They don't have a right to be there anymore, right? And every situation is a little bit different, right? So you guys might just be kind of legally separated. But again, when we begin to break apart from a narcissist, one of the things I tell people is that we need to make sure that all ties are severed, right? That the place that you live at, that it's not in their name, and they're not living in a place that's in your name, and that sort of thing, right? We need to make sure that all enmeshment is broken so they don't have a right to be there. So then you have the opportunity to call the police if you want. And for a lot of people, for people who are listening, that sounds harsh, right? But we have to understand that boundaries are enforceable, right? Boundaries are enforceable. And if someone is being that blatantly disrespectful, that's what it calls for you to call the police and for them to be removed. And that's the only way that sometimes some people will take you serious. And I'm going to get to the reason why that's so important here in a second. Let's continue with this email. Now he has taken me to court, stating to people that I won't let him see my son, and wanting sole custody because he's not getting his way. And this is very, very common for a narcissist to begin to threaten to take people to legal action for full custody, and then you start to threaten parental alienation and that sort of thing. Let's finish this out, and then we'll get into some of the details of that. I'm attending nursing school, and he has not supported or provided anything in regards to his son. I want to know, how will court work with him being the way that he is? Thanks. So one of the things that I want to say right off the bat, right? It doesn't have anything to do with the way that he is. We have to understand. So one of the things that happens in court when people are going to court with a narcissist is that you have given over control to the narcissist for what you said 10 years, when you guys were together for 10 years. So in your mind, and you're still kind of going through your healing process, but you think that this person actually has power and control. To the rest of the world, he does not. He's just another person, right? To you, right? Because he's dominated over you for so long, and because his words, right, pierce, right? With the narcissist, their words pierce, and because of your own lack of boundaries, and because of the way that his words make you feel, you take a lot of these things serious. However, in the real world, outside of what's going on, outside of what he thinks, outside of him having control and dominating, the reality of it is that you have a right to be a mother. Right. And so I don't know and again, I don't know what state you're in. So sometimes what state you're in has different rules and different things like that. However, majority of them are starting to move towards mandatory 50-50. Then you basically can fight from there. But you have to have some pretty extensive circumstances for one person to get sole custody. So one of the things that you mentioned is that he's not providing. He hasn't been. It sounds like he hasn't been around. He's obviously using the child for control, right? So what happens through this process is that we have to understand that you have a right to be a mother. Yes, he still has a right to be a father, even if you got the diagnosis of narcissism. So I wouldn't go in there claiming that he's a narcissist or anything like that. But what we have to understand is that court is there to protect your rights and to enforce boundaries. And so one of the things that happens is that the narcissist can say whatever they want. I'm taking you for full custody. You're never going to see the child again. You're not going to see this. You're not going to do that. But the reality of it is that those type of things aren't likely to happen unless there are some other extenuating circumstances that would call for it. Like, guess what? Like abuse, like causing harm to the child and things of that nature. However, what we have to understand is that without any of those type of dynamics, right? I don't even want to say the A word, even though I just used it, because I know YouTube might ban me for saying that, or might block the video. But so a couple things I would tell you to do: speak to a lawyer to know your rights, to comfort and to soothe yourself. But we also, going back to what I was talking about in terms of him not leaving your property, this is the reason why we actually need to step up and we need to call the police. Because one of the things that happens through this process is that if you were to go to court today and you were to explain all the things that this person is doing to you, it's not going to fly with them very well. Here's the reason why. Courts don't like victims, right? They don't like victims. And for a lot of people who are victims of abuse are like, oh my goodness, but I am a victim. What am I supposed to do? The reality of it is that you have to understand why courts don't like victims. The reason why courts don't like victims is because in court, everybody is a victim. The person who just did some sort of mass spree, right, at a venue, did it because they were afraid and they had to defend themselves. Think about one person, right, in this situation, he's going to try to say that it was parental alienation. She's keeping the child away from me. Everyone in court pretends like they're a victim. What court is actually looking for is who's the adult. right? Who is the adult in this situation? So in a scenario where this person is refusing to leave your home and cannot be mature and cannot play nice, this is the reason why it would benefit you, right, to call 911 in those type of situations, so you can go to the judge and say, listen, this person is saying that they want full custody, but they won't even leave my property on time. They're overstaying their welcome. They're constantly and once you start to document and do this with your lawyer, don't just randomly do stuff like this. But what happens through this process is that now you being an adult, you can basically take your evidence to the judge and basically say to them, listen, I've done all of these things and this person is still not capable of co-parenting with me properly, right? And so we also want to be very aware of our own personal emotions, not engaging in arguments with them, and those sorts of things as well. A lot of that you want to make sure that, because again, I don't know what state you're in, so a lot of that type of stuff you're going to want to talk to, and you're going to want to partner with your lawyer as well. So thank you guys very much. Again, for anyone who has any questions that you'd like for me to answer on here, make sure you send it to justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Again, that is justaskmatt@mattpfeiffercoaching.com. Just make sure you keep that email 2 to 3 paragraphs max, and you're also very direct and to the point of what your question actually is. If it's too long, if it's too lengthy, unfortunately, I will not be able to get to it. Also, make sure that you tune in every Wednesday on to the Matt Pfeiffer Experience and listen to the podcast live. You get to interact with myself and my guests every Wednesday evening, 9 p.m. Central. With all that being said, thank you guys very much, and I will talk to you soon.